What happened when a talk show host pushed Elon Musk too far? The answer shocked the world. The camera panned across a buzzing live audience in Los Angeles. The set was brightly lit with the unmistakable energy of a popular primetime talk show. Viewers at home were expecting the usual blend of humor and biting political commentary. The host, Alex Brooks, a well-known liberal figure with a reputation for grilling his guests, was seated confidently, his polished grin framed by the studio lights. Tonight's show was supposed to be like any other until it wasn't. Alex had always been the type to ask hard-hitting questions, even if it meant making people uncomfortable. His sharp wit and unapologetic style were what made him famous, and tonight, his guest was one that would test his skills to the limit. Elon Musk, the entrepreneur and innovator behind Tesla and SpaceX, was about to face the most challenging interview of his career. The audience, already buzzing with anticipation, was ready to witness what would surely be a battle of words and wills. "And now," Alex began, his tone carrying a hint of mischief, "we have a very special guest, someone you'd never guess would set foot on this stage." The crowd murmured, curiosity rippling through the room. Then, as if orchestrated for maximum impact, Elon Musk emerged from backstage, dressed in a sleek suit, his posture exuding both elegance and strength. The audience gasped, caught off guard by the unannounced appearance. Some clapped hesitantly while others exchanged puzzled glances. Alex himself seemed momentarily thrown off, though he quickly masked it with his signature smirk. Elon approached the host's chair with calm confidence. He wasn't one to make a scene, nor did he need to. His very presence spoke volumes. Despite the glances of surprise from the audience, Elon remained composed, his focus directed entirely on the conversation ahead. "Thank you for having me," he said, his voice carrying a level of grace that seemed almost out of place in the setting of such a high-energy talk show. The audience's reaction was a mix of intrigue and skepticism, setting the tone for what would become an unforgettable night. The stage was set, but no one, not even Alex, could predict what was about to unfold. The host, clearly having expected a more traditional entrance, leaned forward with an expression that blended professionalism with playful curiosity. "Elon Musk," Alex began, "the man who put electric cars on the road and rockets into space. You're known for pushing the boundaries of technology and innovation. But tonight we're not talking about Tesla or SpaceX. We're talking about you."
The moment Alex said those words, the mood in the room shifted. The audience, while still curious, now seemed to lean in just a bit closer. They could feel the tension building, as if they were about to witness something much more intense than the usual celebrity banter. Alex continued, clearly enjoying the setup. "You've been a controversial figure for quite some time, Elon. Your opinions on everything from artificial intelligence to politics have sparked heated debates. But it's your connection to former President Donald Trump that has really raised some eyebrows." Elon smiled slightly, but there was no mistaking the glint of something more serious behind his eyes. It was a quiet confidence, as though he knew what was coming but was prepared to face it head-on. "I believe in focusing on progress," Elon replied evenly. "The world needs progress. My work is about the future, whether that's through technology, space exploration, or sustainable energy." Alex chuckled, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Ah, yes, progress. But isn't it true that some of the things you've said or done in the past, some of your connections, have led to questions about your own moral compass?" The room grew still for a moment. The audience, sensing that the real conversation was about to begin, held their breath. Elon didn't flinch. His expression remained impassive, as if he had heard this line of questioning 1,000 times before. "Actions speak louder than words," Elon said, his voice steady but firm. "I focus on results. My companies are creating jobs, pushing the boundaries of science, and striving to make life on Earth and beyond sustainable for future generations." Alex didn't seem satisfied with this answer. "Sure," he replied, a trace of incredulity in his voice. "But don't you think it's important to take a stance on some of the bigger issues, especially when your words could influence millions? You have this massive platform, Elon. It's not just about what you do, it's about what you say, too. The audience seemed to shift uncomfortably at the challenge. They knew this conversation was heading into risky territory, but they were also eager to hear how Elon would respond. Elon leaned back slightly in his chair, his hands folding together in a relaxed yet deliberate manner. "I'm not here to play politics. I'm here to build a better future," he said calmly, his voice carrying an underlying conviction that was hard to ignore. There will always be criticism, people will always have something to say. But I choose to focus on what's important. The audience remained silent for a moment, processing his words. Alex, though clearly taken aback, pressed on, not ready to let his guest off the hook so easily. "And that's where we diverge, Elon," Alex said, his voice sharpening. "Because many would argue that your choice to remain silent on certain issues, like your relationship with Donald Trump, speaks volumes in itself. Silence can be as loud as a statement, don't you think?" Elon's gaze didn't waver. "I don't believe in adding to the noise," he said, his voice calm yet unwavering. "I focus on action, not on the opinions of others." As the tension in the room mounted, the audience exchanged whispers, clearly intrigued by the back and forth. But no one could have predicted just how deep the conversation would go, or how the tension between the two men would soon boil over into something far more personal than anyone had anticipated. The tension in the room was palpable, the kind that hinted at something far more significant than the usual celebrity interview. Alex, ever the skilled interviewer, could sense that this conversation was going to take a darker turn. He wasn't going to let Elon off the hook just yet. After all, the audience wanted answers, real answers, not the usual corporate talk. "You mentioned silence," Alex continued, his tone cutting through the stillness of the room. "But isn't your silence on your ties with Donald Trump a bit telling? You've been pretty tight-lipped about your relationship with him, even though you've both shared similar views on everything from technology to politics." He leaned forward slightly, his voice lowering to add gravity to the question. "Is there something you're hiding?" The audience sat in stunned silence, waiting for Elon's response. This was the moment they had been waiting for, the moment where the quiet billionaire might be forced to reveal something beneath the surface. For a brief moment, Elon's expression flickered, but he quickly regained his composure. He wasn't the type to be easily rattled. "I don't have anything to hide," Elon replied, his voice calm and controlled. "Donald and I share some similar views on certain things, particularly when it comes to the importance of innovation and the role of government in the private sector. But that doesn't mean we agree on everything. I think people are always looking for more drama than what actually exists." Alex raised an eyebrow, clearly not buying Elon's response. "Drama?" he echoed. "Really? Because I'm not sure how you can dismiss your relationship with Trump as just drama. You were one of the few people in the business world to openly support him. And after his presidency, you've remained quiet despite his controversial actions and statements." Elon's eyes narrowed slightly, the first sign of unease in the conversation. "I don't support everything Trump does, but I do believe in the importance of having open conversations, especially about technology and the future. And if you want to talk about controversial, we could go down a whole different road, but I'd rather keep it about the work." Alex wasn't about to let him off that easy. "Work? You're telling me you don't think it's relevant to discuss the political figures you associate with, especially given your influence on policy and public opinion? Don't you think your silence about Trump speaks volumes about your own values, or lack thereof?" The audience was riveted, eyes glued to the two men as the stakes of this conversation kept rising. Elon leaned back in his chair, folding his arms and giving a slight nod. He was not the type to let his emotions take over, and he was certainly not going to give Alex the satisfaction of seeing him squirm. "Here's the thing," Elon began, his voice steady. "I don't feel the need to jump into every political firestorm. I have my own agenda, one that's focused on the future of humanity, not on the daily drama of Washington. There's enough noise out there already. My priority is making sure we can get humans to Mars, that we can transition to renewable energy, that we can make life on Earth more sustainable. If that's controversial, then so be it. Alex could sense that he wasn't going to get any real admissions from Elon on this topic, but he wasn't ready to give up just yet. You know, Alex said, his tone almost conversational. Some might argue that by staying silent, you're essentially enabling that chaos. You're letting people like Trump and other political figures say whatever they want without speaking up. You have a platform, Elon. Don't you think it's irresponsible not to use it for something more meaningful? For a brief moment, Elon looked away, as if considering the weight of Alex's words. When he spoke again, his voice had a new edge to it, a touch of frustration creeping in. I don't believe in enabling chaos. What I believe in is focusing on the things that matter. What I believe in is action, not just words. I'm not going to sit here and argue about politics. The world has enough politicians. We need more engineers, more scientists, more people who are focused on actually solving the problems we're facing. Alex was getting frustrated too. You're avoiding the question, Elon, he snapped. You're trying to make this sound like it's just about technology, about rockets and cars. But it's bigger than that. You're a public figure. Your actions and your relationships have an impact. The world needs to know where you stand. If you choose not to speak up against dangerous rhetoric, don't you think that makes you part of the problem? There was a brief, tense silence in the room as Elon seemed to process Alex's words. The audience, still in suspense, waited for the moment of truth. Finally, Elon spoke, his voice colder now, more resolute. Look, he said, I don't owe anyone an explanation for who I associate with. I don't care about playing politics or pushing an agenda. I care about progress. I care about the future. And that's where my focus lies. Alex, sensing the conversation was nearing its boiling point, decided to press one final time. So you'll stay silent then, on everything? On Trump's divisive rhetoric, on the way he's treated people who disagree with him, on the things he said, and done that hurt this country? Ellen's eyes met Alex's, his gaze unwavering. I'll speak up when I feel it's necessary. But for now, my work speaks for itself. The tension was still palpable in the studio. Alex had pressed Elon on his relationship with Donald Trump, but it seemed like the answers were always skimming the surface. Ellen's refusal to engage in the political drama was a defense mechanism, and it was clear that the conversation wasn't going to be as simple as Alex had hoped. Still, the host wasn't done. This was a moment that could define his career, and he wasn't about to let it slip away. You say your work speaks for itself, but what about your silence on Trump's presidency? Alex continued, leaning forward with newfound intensity. It's hard to ignore how your silence could be seen as complicity. You've had the platform to speak out, but you've chosen not to. Why? Is it because you don't want to alienate your supporters, or is there something else at play? Elon shifted in his seat, but his calm demeanor never faltered. Again, I'm not here to play politics. If you're asking me if I agree with everything that was said during his presidency, the answer is no. But if you're expecting me to become a political commentator, that's not my role. My role is to focus on the things that can move humanity forward. I'm not here to cater to what the media wants me to say. The audience was watching, hanging on every word, but it was clear they were, beginning to grow restless. Alex was relentless, though, refusing to let Elon retreat into his comfortable shell of vague responses. But Elon, he pressed, people look to you for more than just technological innovation. You're a figurehead, a symbol of progress, and that comes with responsibility. By staying silent, you're allowing harmful rhetoric to go unchecked. How can you live with that? Elon let out a slow sigh, and for a moment, he looked almost apologetic. I'm not trying to avoid responsibility, but I also believe that progress doesn't always come from the loudest voice. Sometimes it's about leading by example, by showing people what's possible through action, not just by engaging in every heated debate that's out there. Alex's eyes narrowed as he sensed an opening. But by not speaking out, you're essentially leaving others to carry that burden. You have the power to affect change, to challenge people who might be doing harm, and yet you remain silent. Don't you think that's dangerous? Elon's response was measured, but it was clear that the conversation was becoming more personal for him. You're asking me if I think my silence is dangerous? I think the real danger is in people assuming that everything must be reduced to a soundbite, to a momentary debate that ends in division. I want to be part of the solution, not the problem. I want to use my resources to tackle the challenges we face, like climate change and space exploration. I want to inspire the next generation to think bigger, to aim for something beyond politics. Alex was visibly frustrated. He wanted a headline, a moment of vulnerability, something that would provide the controversy he knew would go viral. But it seemed Elon was too composed, too focused on the bigger picture to give him that moment. You talk about inspiring the next generation, but what about inspiring people to speak out against what's wrong? Alex retorted. Your silence has left a vacuum, Elon. People want to know where you stand on these things. You can't just hide behind your mission to get to Mars. People need to see that you stand for something more than just your business ventures. Elon leaned forward, his voice firm. What I stand for is the future. The future of humanity, the future of technology, and the future of the planet. I don't think staying silent on political issues makes me complicit. I think it makes me focused on what really matters. And that's what I'm going to continue doing, shaping the future, one step at a time. The crowd, which had been quiet up until this point, erupted into applause. Some cheered, others whispered to one another. But it was clear that Elon's response had resonated with them. Still, Alex wasn't ready to back down. This was the moment where he could get the soundbite that would make the segment unforgettable. Okay, but let's get to the heart of it, Elon, Alex said, his voice cutting through the buzz in the room. Do you regret your relationship with Donald Trump? Do you regret supporting him, even in the face of the controversy that followed his presidency? You were one of the few public figures who supported him, and now that he's no longer in power, what do you really think about the impact he had on this country? The audience fell silent, hanging on the question. Elon, however, was unflinching. He didn't immediately respond, but his eyes narrowed slightly, as if considering the weight of the question. The silence in the room was almost unbearable. Finally, he spoke, his voice low but unwavering. I don't regret supporting anyone because I don't make my decisions based on what's popular. One support ideas, not people. And as for Donald Trump, he did what he thought was right for the country. I may not agree with everything, but I stand by the fact that we need diverse voices in the conversation. We need people who are willing to challenge the status quo, even if it's uncomfortable. Alex's expression was one of disbelief. He had pushed Elon harder than anyone before, but it seemed like he wasn't getting the response he expected. So you're telling me you still support him, even now? He asked, incredulous. I don't support everything Trump did, but I respect the fact that he was willing to take on the system, Elon said firmly. We need more people willing to challenge the system, not just the ones who follow the rules. That's how progress is made. The crowd sat in stunned silence. Alex was momentarily taken aback, and for the first time that evening, he didn't have an immediate response. Elon Musk had done the one thing no guest had done before. He had held his ground, remained calm, and avoided being cornered. The atmosphere in the studio had changed. The intensity of the debate had reached a peak, but Elon Musk remained composed. He had managed to hold his ground, avoiding the traps that Alex had set. But the interview wasn't over yet. There was still more to uncover. Alex exhaled sharply, adjusting his posture. All right, Elon, you've made it clear that you won't be forced into a political box. But let's talk about something that affects both politics and technology your influence. You control platforms, industries, and even the way people communicate. Do you think that level of power is dangerous in the wrong hands? Elon tilted his head slightly. Power is always dangerous if misused. That's why I focus on transparency. Twitter, SpaceX, Tesla, all of these are tools to push humanity forward. But ultimately, people should be able to challenge authority, including me. No one should be above criticism. Alex pounced on the opening. Then why do people say you shut down criticism on Twitter? That you amplify certain voices while silencing others? Ellen's expression hardened for the first time. I believe in free speech. But free speech doesn't mean freedom from consequences. If someone spreads false information or engages in harmful behavior, that's not debate. It's manipulation. And I won't allow my platforms to be used that way. The room was silent again. The weight of Ellen's words lingered. Alex knew this was his last chance to push Musk into a real confession. He leaned in, his voice softer but sharper. You've talked about free speech, power, and progress. But what about legacy? Years from now, when people look back, will they see you as a visionary or as someone who enabled dangerous ideologies? Elon smiled slightly. History isn't written in real time, Alex. It's shaped by those who come after us. If I'm remembered for pushing humanity forward, that's enough for me. Alex sat back, realizing he wouldn't get the scandalous answer he wanted. Elon had dodged every trap, not by avoiding the questions, but by reframing them. As the cameras cut, Alex offered a begrudging nod. That was interesting, Elon chuckled. That's one way to put it. And just like that, the interview was over. But the debates it sparked were just beginning. At the end of the day, the real question isn't just about politics, power, or strategy, it's about values. What do we stand for? What do we truly believe in? That's something only time will reveal. If this story made you think, don't forget to like the video and share it with others. Let's keep spreading inspiration together. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's talk about it. And to those who subscribe and support this channel, may God bless you and be with you always.